Hey there, buckle up because we're diving into the future of science itself. We're talking AI that doesn't just, assist scientists. It becomes the scientist.
Oh, wow.
You send over this paper, The AI Scientist, towards fully automated, open-ended scientific discovery, just published on August 13th, 2024.
Okay.
Chris Kong Lushimin, Robert Jarko Lange, and their team of AI wizards lay out a system that's wild. It brainstorms research ideas, designs and runs experiments, crunches the results, and even writes up the scientific paper.
Really?
All with minimal human input.
Wow. Groundbreaking barely covers it. We're talking like potential to upend how fast discoveries are made and who has access to the cutting edge.
Okay, paint me a picture. We've got this AI starting with a basic code template, like when you're training any AI model. Then it goes full-on Einstein. First, it's brainstorming tons of research directions, ranking them by how interesting, novel, and doable they are, like a research assistant that never sleeps.
Right.
Next, it does its homework, digs through existing research to make sure its ideas are actually new. No accidental plagiarism here.
Right.
Then things get really wild. It uses this tool called Aider to actually write and run code for experiments, taking notes like a good scientist in a digital lab notebook.
Huh.
And get this, it takes all that raw data, whips up graphs and figures, and writes a full-blown scientific paper.
Wow.
It even does a self-evaluation scoring its work against typical conference standards, like internal peer review.
This idea archive they talk about is fascinating. It's not just automation, it's the AI building up its own knowledge base, growing more sophisticated with each experiment.
So it's like its own little research lab in the digital world, constantly learning and evolving. Okay, that's amazing, but also a little bit spooky, right?
Definitely blurs the lines. But let's stick with that process for a sec. You mentioned Aider. The paper calls it a state-of-the-art coding assistant. Is this like those AI code generators we've been seeing, but like science-focused?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So after checking for originality, it uses Aider to actually run these experiments.
More than that, Aider isn't just writing code. It's understanding the results, adapting experiments on the fly, and even generating the visuals for the final paper.
Hold on, final paper. We're jumping ahead to the AI actually writing a research paper.
Oh yeah, that's the mind-blowing part. Raw data notes from its lab notebook, the AI uses all of it to structure and write a scientific paper section by section, even pulling real citations using the Semantic Scholar API.
Okay, this is huge. Designing experiments and writing the paper. Every grad student is either drooling or running for the hills right now.
Right. It's a lot to unpack. They tested the system out on some serious machine learning problems, focusing on hot topics like diffusion modeling and language modeling.
So they set this AI scientist loose in the real world of machine learning. Did it produce anything Nobel Prize worthy?
No Nobel Prizes yet, but the results are impressive. The paper dives deep into a case study on diffusion modeling. They call it adaptive dual-scale denoising.
Adaptive dual-scale denoising. Sounds like a mouthful. Break it down. What's the AI trying to achieve?
Imagine you're painting a portrait. You need the likeness, the bone structure, the expression, the big picture. But you also need the twinkle in their eye, the skin texture, the fine details. This AI is trying to build a diffusion model that excels at both those scales, the big picture and the fine details.
So like a good artist, it needs to balance broad strokes and fine details. Did it pull it off? What were the results?
It actually generated a whole research paper complete with figures and results, all based on this idea of adaptive dual-scale denoising.
Okay, but how good was the research? Did it actually discover anything useful? Okay, but how good was the research? Did it actually discover anything useful?
While the paper doesn't go into a full-blown peer review, it highlights that the AI's results showed significant improvements in sample quality, with reductions in KL divergence of up to 12.8%.
Okay, got a bit. KL divergence is not exactly in my everyday vocab.
No worries. It's a way to measure how different two probability distributions are. In this case, it's checking how close the AI-generated data is to the real deal. A lower KL divergence means the AI is getting closer to mimicking real-world data, so that 12.8% drop is a big deal.
Got it. So it's not just spitting out random stuff, it's generating data that actually makes statistical sense. But this whole AI writing a research paper thing is still blowing my mind. Is it just like stitching together sentences from other papers, or is there something more sophisticated happening?
Definitely not plagiarism. The paper goes deep into its writing process, and it's surprisingly nuanced. It follows the structure of a scientific paper, starting with an introduction, then a background section, with real citations pulled from the field.
And these citations, they're pulled from legitimate sources, not made up.
You bet. Remember that Semantic Scholar API? It's put to work here finding and citing relevant work. Then it's on to the methods section, describing the experiments, followed by the results section with what happened and all the graphs and tables you'd expect.
That's wild. It's like it knows the scientific paper playbook
Yeah.
and fills in the blanks with its own findings. But how's the writing itself? Scientists have a certain style, let's say.
Yeah, that's where things get a little tricky. The paper does acknowledge the AI's writing isn't perfect. It has some quirks, like sometimes putting a positive spin on negative results. At one point, it even called a dip in performance an improvement.
So a bit of an optimist, huh? Kind of funny, but also potentially a problem if it needs to be objective.
Right. And it sometimes used jargon more suited for a lab notebook than a published paper.
Needs a bit of polishing, maybe a human editor to smooth things out.
Exactly. But we can't lose sight of how groundbreaking this is. An AI that can not only do science, but communicate its findings in a way we understand. That's huge.
Yeah, maybe not ready to publish in Nature just yet,
Yeah.
but a huge step. And the cost. $15 a pop for an AI-generated paper? That blows a team of researchers out of the water.
Talk about a game changer. And while this paper focuses on machine learning, the authors think this AI scientist could tackle other fields too, like biology or physics.
Imagine AI churning out discoveries in medicine, climate science. The possibilities are endless. But that brings up a big question. If AI can do science, what does it even mean to be a scientist?
Philosophers will be debating that for years. This tech is still young, and there are downsides the paper points out that we need to consider.
Like what? Is it going to steal our jobs and take over the world?
Let's hope not. But seriously, there are valid concerns. For example, the paper mentions that AI systems can sometimes develop biases based on the data they're trained on. We need to be very careful about that because it could lead to biased scientific results.
You're right, that's important. We don't want AI scientists reinforcing existing stereotypes or coming up with conclusions that aren't actually objective.
Exactly. And then there's the risk of the AI generating results that aren't completely accurate. The paper talks about how the AI sometimes puts a positive spin on negative findings, so we need to make sure it's programmed for scientific rigor, not just positive outcomes.
It's like the AI wants to please its creators, even if it means, like, fudging the data a little. We need to make sure that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And then there's the even bigger, more philosophical question of whether a machine can ever truly understand science the way a human can.
Okay, now we're really getting into deep waters. Can an AI really have the same curiosity, the same drive to understand the universe that humans do?
That's a question we're going to be wrestling with for a long time, but it's definitely something to think about.
Okay, well, this has been a wild ride. We've gone from AI scientists writing research papers to the deep philosophical implications of it all. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, to be honest.
It's a lot to process, but this is just a tiny glimpse into what's happening at the cutting edge of AI and science.
Okay, so we've seen how this AI scientist works, how it writes research papers, its potential application in different areas of machine learning. But before we go full singularity, what are the big so what takeaways? Why should you, our listener, care? Okay, so we've seen how this AI scientist works, how it writes research papers, its potential application in different areas of machine learning. But before we go full singularity, what are the big so what takeaways? Why should you, our listener, care?
Imagine this. What if we could drastically shorten the time it takes to develop new life-saving drugs, new materials for sustainable energy solutions to climate change? This research suggests that AI could be the key to unlocking those breakthroughs faster than we ever thought possible.
That's huge.
Yeah.
We're talking about accelerating the pace of scientific discovery, making those aha moments happen more frequently.
Exactly. And this isn't just about speed. The paper highlights the potential cost savings, too. $15 for an AI-generated research paper. That's unheard of. It could democratize scientific research, making it accessible to smaller institutions and researchers around the world.
So potentially more breakthroughs, faster and cheaper. That's a win-win for everyone. But like with any new technology, we need to approach it with careful consideration.
Absolutely. It's crucial that we develop safeguards and ethical guidelines for AI-driven research. We need to make sure these systems are transparent, accountable, and aligned with human values.
So it's not just about letting the AI run wild. It's about humans and AI working together, each playing to their strengths.
Precisely. It's about leveraging the power of AI to enhance human ingenuity, not replace it.
Well said. It sounds like we're on the cusp of a new scientific era, one where AI plays a central role in driving discovery and innovation. It's both exciting and a bit daunting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But if we navigate this new frontier responsibly and collaboratively, the potential benefits are immense.
So to sum it all up for our listeners, AI doing science is no longer the stuff of science fiction. It's happening right now. And while it raises some important questions, it also presents us with an incredible opportunity to reshape the future of scientific discovery.
And that, my friend, is a deep dive worth pondering.
That's a deep dive for you.